My name is Emily. Emily Reed. And I don't know where to start the story because even now, as I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee, I'm not sure who I hurt the most. Him? Myself? Or maybe someone else, whose name I don't even want to say out loud. But let's begin with that evening, the one when everything went wrong, though I had no idea it was just the beginning. It was a rainy night in Seattle, one of those when the city feels gray and hopeless yet alive, as if every sound of raindrops on the pavement whispers something important to you. I stood by the window of our fifth-floor apartment, holding my phone. The screen glowed with a message, "Emily, we need to talk. Tonight, meet me at Blue Haven at 8 p.m. No signature, but I knew who it was from. My stomach tightened, as if sensing a storm, but I brushed it off. It's just a conversation, I told myself, pulling on my coat. Blue Haven is a small bar downtown, smelling of wet wood and cheap liquor. I got there early, ordered a gin and tonic, and waited. My fingers nervously gripped the glass when the door swung open, and he walked in. But who was he? That's where the intrigue starts, right? Because there were two he's in my life, and I betrayed one of them. Or maybe both. Let me tell it step by step. The first was Jake. Jake Miller, my boyfriend of 3 years. He was the kind of guy everyone loves, tall, with a wide smile that could melt any ice, and eyes that always seemed a little sad, even when he laughed. We met in college at a party where I spilled beer on him, and he joked that it was the best way to meet someone. From then on, we were together, through fights, moves, and even that time I lost my job, and he worked double shifts for 2 months so we could pay rent. Jake was my anchor. But if it were that simple, I wouldn't have been sitting in that bar, waiting for the other one. The second was Nathan. Nathan Crow, my coworker, let's call him a complication. We worked together at Brightwave, a marketing agency where I handled creative and he managed strategy. Nathan was Jake's opposite. Dark hair, sharp gaze, and always with a hint of danger, like he knew more than he let on. We started getting close 6 months ago, working on a big client project. At first, it was just late nights at the office, coffee at 3 a.m., and jokes about how much we hated our boss. But then the jokes grew quieter, the looks lingered longer, and one night, alone in the conference room, he touched my hand. And I didn't pull away. That night in Blue Haven, I was waiting for Nathan. He'd sent me that message, and I knew he wanted to talk about us. About what happened 2 weeks earlier when we went on a business trip to Portland. About that night in the hotel when I forgot about Jake, our 3 years together, everything he meant to me. I remember how Nathan looked at me in that room, how he said, "Emily, you know this isn't just nothing. You feel what I feel." And I didn't deny it. I let it happen. And now I sat in the bar, waiting to hear what he'd say next. Nathan walked in, shaking rain off his jacket. He sat across from me, and I noticed right away that he was nervous. His fingers trembled as he ordered a beer. "Emily," he began, looking into my eyes, "we can't keep pretending nothing happened. I can't work with you, see you every day, and act like it's just friendship. I want more." My heart pounded. I knew he'd say it, but hearing it out loud hit like a punch. "Nathan," I said softly, "I have Jake. You know that." He smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Then why are you here? Why were you with me in Portland? You can lie to yourself, but not to me." He was right. I couldn't argue. But at that moment, I heard a familiar sound, the creak of the bar door. I turned and saw Jake. He stood there, soaked from the rain, with a look on his face I'll never forget. Shock, pain, anger, all at once. "Emily?" His voice shook. "What are you doing here? And with who?" Time stopped. I realized one of them had tracked me down. Either Nathan told Jake to force me to choose, or Jake figured it out himself. But how? I didn't know. And in that moment, I didn't know who I'd betrayed more, Jake, who was my everything, or Nathan, who I'd given hope to. "Jake," I started, but he raised a hand, stopping me. "Don't. I see everything I need to." He turned and left, leaving me with Nathan, who stayed silent, though his eyes screamed, "You've made your choice." But had I? Because from that night, Things only got more complicated. Jake didn't come home that night, and Nathan texted me, "If you're not with him, be with me." And I was left alone, with cold coffee and a question that still haunts me. Who did I betray more? And can I ever forgive myself? I stayed in Blue Haven for another 10 minutes after Jake left. Nathan didn't say a word, just watched me, as if expecting me to stand up, run after Jake, and prove him wrong. But I couldn't move. My legs felt glued to the floor, and my thoughts buzzed like a swarm of bees I couldn't quiet. What had I done? How did I get here? And why, damn it, didn't I feel what I was supposed to? Guilt, shame, the urge to fix it. Instead, there was an emptiness inside me, and I hated myself for it. "Emily," Nathan finally spoke, his voice low and cautious. "You have to decide." Now, I looked at him, at his sharp cheekbones, at how he gripped his beer glass like it was the only thing keeping him steady. "Decide what?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "Between him and me," he said, and a vulnerability flickered in his eyes that I hadn't seen before. Nathan always seemed so confident, so unshakable, but now he was just a man waiting to see if I'd break his heart. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words stuck in my throat. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I loved Jake, at least, I thought I did. He was my home, my safe place. But Nathan was a storm that made me feel alive when I didn't even realize I'd been asleep in my own life. And I'd betrayed them both, hadn't I? Jake with my weakness, Nathan with my indecision. "I can't decide right now," I said at last, standing up from the table. "I need to think." Nathan grabbed my hand, his fingers warm against my cold skin. "Emily, if you walk away now, that's it. I won't wait forever." I pulled my hand free and left the bar without looking back. Rain lashed my face, but I didn't try to shield myself. I didn't care. When I got home, the apartment was empty. Jake hadn't left a note, no message. His jacket was gone from the hook, and only my morning coffee mug sat on the kitchen table, still half full. I sank onto the couch and cried, not because I'd lost him, but because I didn't know if I wanted him back. The next few days were a blur. Jake didn't answer my calls, and when I texted him, "We need to talk," he replied curtly, "You said everything in that bar." I didn't know what he meant, whether he'd seen Nathan holding my hand or just guessed. But his words cut like a knife because I knew I deserved it. At work, Nathan kept his distance. He'd come into the office, give me a brief glance, and head to his desk. No jokes, no late nights. Once, I tried talking to him by the coffee machine. "Nathan, I started, but he cut me off." "Don't, Emily. You made your choice when you left." His voice was cold, but I saw his hands tremble as he poured his coffee. He was hurting, and it was my fault. A week later, I found out how Jake ended up at Blue Haven. My friend Kate, who bartended there, called me. "Emily, I didn't want to get involved, but I'm the one who told Jake you were there," she confessed, her voice shaky with guilt. "He came in that night looking for you. Said you weren't answering your phone and he was worried. I thought he knew who you were with, but God, I didn't know it'd turn out like this." I stood in my kitchen, holding the phone, feeling the ground slip away. Kate didn't know about Nathan, but she'd seen us together at the bar a few weeks earlier, just having drinks after work. She'd suspected something was off, and when Jake showed up, she told him where to find me. It wasn't Nathan luring Jake to the bar as I'd thought. It was a coincidence. Or fate. That same night, I decided to go to Jake. He was staying with his sister, Megan, in a Seattle suburb. I knocked on the door, and Megan opened it, her gaze icy. "He doesn't want to see you," she said, arms crossed. "Megan, please," I begged. "I need to talk to him." She sighed and stepped aside, letting me in. Jake was in the living room, holding a beer. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, messy hair. "What do you want, Emily?" he asked, not looking up. "To talk," I said, sitting across from him. "About what? How you cheated on me with that jerk from work? Or how you lied every time you said you loved me?" His words hit like a slap. "I didn't lie," I whispered, but even to myself it sounded weak. "Then why?" He looked up, tears in his eyes. Why did you do it? I didn't know what to say, because I didn't understand it myself. Was it Nathan? Was it because I was tired of our calm, predictable life? Or just because I was weak? I don't know, I said finally. But I don't want to lose you. Jake smiled, a bitter, pained smile. You already lost me, Emily. That night in the bar, I realized you're not mine. And maybe you never were. He stood and walked to another room, leaving me alone. I heard Megan whispering to him in the kitchen, but I couldn't make out the words. I got up, grabbed my coat, and left. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold, and I shivered as I walked to my car. The next day, I quit Brightwave. I couldn't face Nathan anymore, couldn't work where every corner reminded me of my mistake. My boss, Mr. Clayton, tried to convince me to stay, but I was firm. I need a fresh start, I told him, and he nodded, though he looked disappointed. 2 months passed. I moved to Tacoma, found a job at a small ad agency, and tried to piece myself together. Jake didn't call, and I heard from mutual friends he was dating someone new. Nathan sent me one letter, short, emotionless. Hope you found what you were looking for. I didn't reply, but at night, lying in bed, listening to the silence of my new apartment, I still wondered, who did I betray more? Jake, who loved me with all his heart? Nathan, who risked everything for me? Or myself, the girl who once knew what she wanted from life? And I still didn't have an answer. Moving to Tacoma didn't save me from myself. I thought a new apartment, new job, and new faces would help me forget, but memories clung to me like wet leaves to shoes in the fall. Every time I brewed coffee, I remembered Jake laughing when I spilled grounds all over the kitchen. Every time I passed office buildings, I saw Nathan, his focused stare as he sketched strategies on the board. I tried to escape them, but they lived in me, and I didn't know how to let them go. My new job at Skyline Ads was simple. I wrote slogans for local businesses, nothing complex, nothing that demanded the passion I once poured into projects with Nathan. My coworkers were nice but distant. I didn't make friends, didn't go to company parties. I just did my work and went home, where evenings passed watching shows I didn't even remember. One night, about 3 months after moving, I decided to walk around downtown Tacoma. It was Saturday, and the streets buzzed with life, couples holding hands, friends laughing outside bars. I stepped into a small coffee shop called Driftwood, ordered a latte, and sat by the window. That's when I saw her, Megan, Jake's sister. She stood across the street, holding grocery bags. My stomach knotted, but I couldn't look away. She looked the same as that night at her house, sharp features, blonde hair in a ponytail. I thought about leaving, but something, desperation or stupidity, pushed me to stand and cross the street. Megan, I called, dodging traffic. She turned, and her eyes narrowed when she recognized me. Emily, she said, her voice a mix of surprise and disdain. What are you doing here? I stopped a few feet away, feeling the tension crackle between us. I moved here. I work nearby, I said, trying to sound casual. She nodded, but her lips pressed into a thin line. Does Jake know? She asked. I shook my head. No. We haven't talked since that night. Megan stared at me for a long moment, as if deciding whether to keep talking. Then she sighed and said, he's still in Seattle. Dating some girl, Lena. Says he's happy, but I know him better. He still thinks about you. Her words hit me like a bullet. I expected news of Jake with someone else to bring relief or jealousy, but instead, a wave of longing washed over me. I didn't want it to end like this, I said quietly. Megan raised an eyebrow. Then why did you do it? You knew he loved you. I didn't have an answer. Did I know? Yes, I did. But did I really feel it? Maybe I'd just gotten used to his love, like an old sweater you wear because it's comfortable, not because you like it. I don't understand myself, I admitted, and to my surprise, Megan didn't mock me. She just nodded, as if she understood more than I did. If you want to see him, he'll be here next week. It's my birthday and he's coming. But I'm not sure it's a good idea. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the street with her words ringing in my head. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pictured Jake with this Lena, smiling at her, holding her hand, maybe saying the things he once said to me. And I realized I had to see him. Not to win him back, I knew that was impossible, but to close this chapter, to say what I hadn't said then. The next week, I stood outside Megan's house, clutching a bottle of wine as a gift. It took me 5 minutes to muster the courage to knock. Megan opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise. "You actually came," she said, but there was no anger in her voice, just exhaustion. "I have to see him," I said, and she nodded, stepping aside. The house buzzed with the party music, laughter, the smell of food. I wove through the crowd, searching for Jake, and finally spotted him in the corner. He was with a girl, Lena, I assumed. She was petite, with short brown hair and a warm smile. Jake whispered something to her, and she laughed. It felt like I was seeing him for the first time in ages, not the broken man with a beer, but the Jake I once loved. He noticed me, and his smile faded. Lena sensed the shift and turned. "Jake?" she asked, but he was already walking toward me. "Emily, what are you doing here?" His voice was calm, but I heard the strain. "I wanted to talk," I said, gripping the wine bottle so hard I feared it'd shatter. He nodded and led me to the back porch, away from the noise. We stood in silence for a few seconds, listening to the wind rustle the leaves. "You look good," I said to break the quiet. He smiled, but not like before. "You too. Why'd you come?" I took a deep breath. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For Nathan, for lying, for not appreciating you. I didn't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it. Jake looked at me for a long time, and I couldn't read his thoughts. "Emily," he said finally, "I forgave you a while ago. Not because you deserve it, but because I didn't want to carry that pain anymore. But that doesn't mean I can come back. You broke something I can't fix." I nodded, feeling tears sting my eyes. "And Lena?" I asked. He smiled, genuinely this time. "She's good. She's not you, and that's what I need." We talked for a few more minutes, about small things, the weather, how Megan hates her new job. Then he went back to the party, to Lena, and I stayed on the porch, staring at the stars. I didn't feel the relief I'd hoped for, but something shifted inside me. Maybe it was the first step toward forgiving myself. But fate, as always, had other plans. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. "Emily?" "It's Nathan," the voice said. My hand shook, and I nearly dropped the phone. "How did you find me?" I asked. "Long story," he replied. "I need to see you. I'm in Tacoma. Can we meet tomorrow?" I could have said no. Could have hung up and forgotten it. But I said yes. And that changed everything. The next day, I sat in Driftwood, nervously clutching a latte. Nathan walked in at 5 sharp, as promised. He looked the same, dark hair, sharp gaze, but there was something new, something softer. He sat across from me and stayed quiet for a moment, like he was choosing his words. "I left Brightwave," he said at last. "Moved to Portland, started over. But I couldn't stop thinking about you." My heart skipped a beat. "Nathan, I began, but he raised a hand. Let me finish. I'm not here to ask you to be with me. I'm here to say I'm sorry. For pushing you, for putting you in that position. I knew you were with Jake, but I went for it anyway. And I hate myself for it." His words caught me off guard. I'd expected anger, accusations, not this. "It's not your fault," I said softly. "It was my weakness, not yours." He shook his head. "We're both to blame. But I want you to know, that night in Portland, it meant something to me, and I don't regret it, even if it ended like this." We sat in silence, looking at each other. And for the first time in ages, I felt like I could breathe. "Thank you," I said finally. "For coming." He smiled. Not that dangerous smile I remembered, but a real, warm one. "Take care of yourself, Emily." He stood and left, leaving me with my thoughts. After that meeting, I started to change. Not overnight, not drastically, but slowly. I signed up for drawing classes, something I loved as a kid but abandoned for adult life. I started taking walks, meeting people, rediscovering myself. Jake stayed in the past, and though I thought of him sometimes, it didn't hurt anymore. Nathan sent me a postcard a few months later, just a photo of a Portland bridge with "It's nice here. Hope you're doing well" written on it. I smiled and tucked it in a drawer. 6 months passed. One evening, I sat in my apartment, sketching a rainy Seattle scene. My phone rang, and I saw Kate's number. "Emily, you won't believe this," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Jake's getting married. To Lena. The invitation came today." I froze, but not from pain surprise. "That's good," I said, and realized I meant it. "Tell him I'm happy for him." Kate laughed. "You've changed, Emily." And she was right. I betrayed Jake, betrayed Nathan, betrayed myself. But somewhere in that mess, I found myself again. And this time, I won't let go.